He was given a heart, but never a name. He was taught etiquette, but never how to touch. We all know the story of Edward Scissorhands, but we've missed the most tragic detail. He was never meant to be human. By the end of this investigation, you will understand the secret identity of the man with scissors for hands, and the profound reason he is doomed to remain an outsider forever. The story, as we remember it, is a modern fairy tale. High on a hill, in a dark Gothic castle, overlooking a sea of pastel-colored houses, a lonely inventor creates an artificial man. He gives him a heart, a mind, and a gentle soul. But before he can give him the one thing that will let him connect with the world, human hands, the inventor dies. He leaves his creation unfinished, alone, and armed with jarring, dangerous shears where his fingers should be. He is discovered by a kind Avon lady named Peg Boggs, who brings him down from his lonely castle and into the manicured world of American suburbia. This pale figure in black leather is a Gothic shadow in a world of blinding color. At first, the neighborhood is fascinated. They see his blades as a gift. He is a novelty, an exotic pet. Are you amazed by how quickly fascination can turn into fear? But soon, the very thing that makes him special makes him a target. Fear and prejudice begin to twist his gentle intentions into perceived acts of violence. His love for Peg's daughter, Kim, is the final tragic impossibility. The one person he wants to hold is the one person he can never touch without hurting her. But the story leaves us with a lingering, unanswered question. Our investigation begins not in the film, but in the mind of its creator. Before the movie, there was a drawing, a simple sketch by a teenage Tim Burton. It showed a tall, thin figure with a wild shock of hair, sad eyes, and long, sharp blades for fingers. If you think these blades tell a story, subscribe for more. This wasn't some early concept for a monster movie. Instead, it was a deeply personal visual diary entry. It was a portrait of how Burton felt growing up in Burbank, California, the real-life inspiration for the film's suffocating suburbia. Burton was a quiet, artistic kid who felt like a complete outsider. He found more comfort in monster movies and graveyards than with peers. He was a Gothic soul in a world of sunshine and conformity. That feeling of isolation, of being unable to connect, became the heart of his drawing. The scissors for hands were a direct, powerful metaphor. As Burton himself said, it was about a character who wants to touch but can't, who is both creative and destructive. Screenwriter Caroline Thompson, who brought the story to life, immediately understood the power of that image. She said the metaphor was painfully clear. If you have no hands, you can't touch. If you can't touch, you can't have contact. You can't connect. You can't belong. The hands were the key. They represented the agony of the artist, a tool for creation that simultaneously pushes the world away. So, the first layer of Edward's identity is revealed. He is a personal ghost. He is the cinematic embodiment of Burton's adolescent loneliness. The inventor in the castle is the creative force, Burton the artist, giving shape to this deep, personal feeling of being an outcast. Edward is a walking piece of Burton's own soul, a painfully honest self-portrait. He is the ghost of a lonely boy who grew up in the suburbs. But to understand the bones of this creature, we have to look past the artist and into the dark library of monsters that inspired him. Because Burton didn't just create a character, he resurrected an archetype. The reason Edward feels so familiar, so timeless, is that we have met him before, wearing different faces. He belongs to a long, tragic lineage, a composite stitched from history's greatest outcasts. He is a modern fairy tale monster for a new age, and his family tree reveals the second layer of his identity. His most obvious ancestor is Frankenstein's monster. The parallel is undeniable. Both Edward and the monster are artificial men, brought to life by a solitary creator. Both are unfinished. Frankenstein's creation is emotionally abandoned, while Edward is physically incomplete. Their creators die before finishing them, leaving them to face a world not made for them. But they are immediately judged by their monstrous appearances, and the cruelty of society turns them into objects of fear. The true monsters, in both stories, are the torch-wielding townspeople. In fact, the climax of Edward Scissorhands, with an angry mob chasing him back to his castle, is a direct homage to the classic 1931 film, Frankenstein. But there is another story woven into his DNA. Beauty and the Beast. The relationship between Edward and Kim is a perfect echo of this ancient tale. Edward is the beast who lives in a lonely, enchanted castle, feared by everyone in the town below. Kim is the beauty who is at first terrified of him, but slowly learns to see past his dangerous exterior to the kind, gentle soul within. She is the only one who ever asks him to hold her. But here, Tim Burton gives the classic fairy tale a devastating twist. Unlike the beast in the story, Edward can never transform. There is no magic spell to break, no curse to lift. His tragedy is that he'll always be the beast. No magic cure for what he is. His family tree doesn't end there. We see shades of the hunchback of Notre Dame, another disfigured soul living in a high tower, shunned and persecuted by the mob below for a crime he didn't commit. We see the ghost of the Phantom of the Opera, a tragic artist whose genius is inseparable from his monstrosity, who loves a beautiful woman he can never truly possess. Burton didn't copy these stories, he synthesized them. Edward is more than just a copy of Frankenstein's monster or the beast. He represents the very spirit of the Gothic outcast, reborn in the absurd, candy-colored landscape of American suburbia. But this still doesn't explain the final piece of the puzzle. Why must he remain this way? To answer that, we have to look not at other stories, but at our own world. We've followed the clues from the artist's heart to the monster's family tree, and now the final revelation. Edward can't be human. He was never meant to be. His secret identity is that of a living symbol. You see, his inhumanity isn't some flaw in the story. In fact, it's the entire point of the fairy tale. First, and most importantly, Edward is the ultimate parable of the artist. His hands are the perfect symbol of the artist's dilemma. With the same tools, he makes breathtaking beauty and accidental harm. Such a powerful idea, isn't it? His hands represent the double-edged nature of creativity itself. The same sensitivity that fuels creation also isolates the artist, making them seem strange, even dangerous. The film satirizes this perfectly. The suburbanites love what Edward produces. They line up for his haircuts and marvel at his hedge sculptures. They consume the art, but fear the artist, the scarred man in the dark castle. But his identity is even broader than that. Edward is also an allegory for the outsider, for anyone who carries a visible or invisible difference. Screenwriter Caroline Thompson confirmed that she intended the film to be a story about disability and acceptance. His scissor hands are permanent. The film critiques a society that tries to fix or manage him instead of accepting him. Peg tries to cover his scars with makeup. A psychologist tries to analyze him. But no one can fundamentally change who he is. His tragedy is that the world demands he change, but he can't. True acceptance can't be conditional. He represents anyone who has ever been told they need to change in order to belong. And this leads us to the heart of the mystery, the final truth. If the inventor had finished his creation, if he had given Edward normal, human hands, the story would have no meaning. It would just be a movie about a man who moves to a new neighborhood. By leaving him unfinished, the inventor locked him into a perfect, timeless, symbolic state. His entire identity is defined by what he lacks. His purpose isn't to become human, but to reflect ours. He is a dark mirror held up to the bright pastels of suburbia. He exposes suburbia's fake kindness, its mob mentality, and its fear of anyone who doesn't conform. The ending of the film solidifies this identity. Edward does not die. He does not change. He retreats. He returns to his castle to become a myth, a local legend. The old woman telling the story, a grown-up Kim, explains that she knows he's still there because it never used to snow in their town. Now, every winter, he carves his ice sculptures, and the shavings drift down to cover the world that rejected him in a blanket of pure white beauty. He transcends the human story. He becomes a permanent, isolated force of nature. He can't touch the world, so he creates beauty for it, from afar. And that is his true secret identity. He is far more than an unfinished man. He is a finished, perfect symbol. In the end, Edward's secret identity isn't really a secret. It's a feeling. He mirrors our own scars, the parts we fear might hurt others if we get too close. And he teaches us that the most beautiful things in this world are often created by those who can never fully be a part of it. But what happens when an outsider isn't created by a loving inventor, but is stolen from our world and trapped in another? Our next investigation takes us into the land of the dead to uncover the secret identity of the corpse bride and the dark reason why she chose to die.